But how's your day been while we're waiting for people to join us? What have you been up to today? Well, you're in Florida. How are things in Florida? I feel like it's the wild, wild west out there.
Oh my gosh, it's very wild. Like, so I'm originally from Chicago, and when I went and shot Lala, I was back home like seeing my family, and it's just so different. My boyfriend always jokes. He says that like Florida was shut down for 2 weeks. That was it. Like we were shut down for like 2 weeks, maybe a month, and then like things went back to normal. So it's completely different when I talk to photographers just all over the world, and they're like, well, I can't do this. And I'm over here like, I've been shooting shows since February. I technically shot 2 drive-ins in October of last year, but I've been shooting normal venue shows since February, which...
Wow. We can't relate here in Australia. Absolutely. Can't relate. I'm still in lockdown.
Right. You guys are like totally like, it's so weird talking to people from all different places. And like a lot of the people I shot Lala with, they're like, this is my first thing back. And I'm like,
yeah.
It's so strange to me because with the venue I work for, they do Insomniac, like mini festivals and stuff. So we had a techno festival on Memorial Day weekend. So I kind of had a mini festival, but not, it was only 2 stages. So it was like,
shit.
It was a back and forth, but if you look at the aerial shot, you're just like, that's a shit ton of people. Like for the time.
Oh my god. Oh my god. What up, Ash? Hello, Watto. Hello, Benny. Nice to see you guys here. We've got Taylor here today, aka the camera lady. We're talking about, so she lives in Florida, and these are all Australians that have just popped in. So I think everyone is in lockdown except for Benny. I don't think Benny's in lockdown. Everyone else is in lockdown at the moment. So it depends on where you live in Australia, and it depends on how harsh the lockdown is as well. Melbourne and Sydney, we're in really, really harsh lockdowns again. And just to give you some context, like we did really well last year. So we had a really hard lockdown in Melbourne, but we were told, you know, we're doing it for the greater good. And once, you know, we get COVID down to pretty, you know, really low numbers, the vaccination will come through and life will be back to normal in 2021. Well, that didn't happen, and they didn't order enough vaccinations. So we're stuck because the Delta variants come in, and we don't have any way to protect ourselves and our healthcare and our hospital systems from being completely overrun other than going back into lockdown.
Like,
so that's where we're at.
That's like, I can see that like happening here, and it's just like, I don't know what Australia venues are going to do, but certain venues here started saying, oh, you need proof of vaccination. Or my friend Jen shoots at Fillmore and House of Blues in New Orleans. It's proof of vaccination and everyone has to wear a mask. Like,
that's what it'll be here. It'll be like that here for sure.
Like, I was totally cool with, and I liked the fact that Lala asked for, hey, proof of vaccination. And if you were working the show, if you were crew, artist, whoever, you had to be vaccinated. If you were not, you could not work in any capacity backstage. So it was great. And like here, like my venue, like all of us that are working, we have to wear masks. But with Florida and politics, they can't necessarily ask for proof of vaccination because of what our governor did. That's a whole nother story. But it's just like, I mean, I think this is just something we have to get used to. It's going to be like the flu, like, hey, show your vaccination card, get vaccinated, something, because we all want to be back to having shows. And like being back at Lala, just seeing so many people just being able to have some sort of joy after all of this chaos was the more rewarding piece than even like just shooting it in general. Like the reaction of everyone else was what was incredible. But
it was, I think, to watch on, to be honest. What up, Simone and Britt? Nice to see you guys here as well. So I saw yesterday, so Lala's a really good example because, and I think Watto's just said that we've got a big festival called Splendor in the Grass. They've just announced that same plan here as well. So they're going to do you have to be vaccinated, wearing masks and stuff like that. Having said that, so there was really, really low transmission at Lala. I think it was only like 200 and something cases over how many? 30,000 people or something?
It's 4 days and it's supposed to be about 400,000 people over the 4 days.
Wow.
So like 200 and some cases was pretty good.
That's amazing. That's actually amazing. And so can I just clarify that Rolling Loud didn't do that. They didn't need proof, and that's been a bit of a disaster.
Yeah, so like I did not shoot Rolling Loud, but I had a lot of friends that did. But they did not require proof of vaccination. I don't think there was any masks of that sort. And two of the people definitely that were on our team for Rolling Loud, or for Rolling Loud, for Lala also were down shooting Rolling Loud at some capacity, and they were like told after like a couple weeks, like, hey, can you go get like a test just to make sure, because some people were popping up with cases, and both of them were negative, but they were like they took the test before and after, but there was no sort of protocol for that. And I mean, Rolling Loud has other things they usually deal with it being a rap festival and artists and that sort of thing. So and they had other things happen, so I'm not really sure what happened. Fireproof.
I'm across all the drama of Rolling Loud.
There was
so much drama
going on. I just was like, but they didn't require it. But I've been seeing a lot of like reports being like, oh, well, Lala did this and it worked. And I mean, C3 does so many other festivals that you're gonna, like Bonnaroo picked it up, and ACL and Midtown Music and Shaky Knees, like all those. But then all the other festivals, it's just something that it's just going to happen and be a thing now. That's it. Like.
Yeah, and I think, look, God, if you're looking at those numbers and the transmission is that low, that's all you can do at the end of the day. It's never going to be a situation that it's zero transmission, not with a population like America is. There's so many people. I definitely think in Australia that's possible. We can definitely take minimal all of the precautions so there's minimal transmission, but we have to get to this point because like it's been 2 years now and we're still in lockdown. Like it's absolutely crazy, and everybody now is just getting lockdown fatigue. There's a lot of mental health stuff. I mean, we all get it. We all know why we have to do it. We're doing it for the greater good, but it's if we want to change the conversation.
Right. If we want to go to shows or anything, just get vaccinated. We need some sort of happiness again.
Exactly. And so the vaccinations here are slowly rolling in, which is great. They're projecting about 70 to 80% of the population should be vaccinated by November, December. So we should, and there's big take up in Australia. There's lower hesitancy than there is in America. So we should see pretty good numbers. It's pretty good compliance. What up, Al? Hey, nice to see you here. So we should see pretty good compliance, and fingers crossed, like next year. I'm just looking forward to next year now. This year is just completely written off for me.
It's all just have to speak the positive things into existence. That's what I believe.
Yes.
Like, speak.
I did that last year. I was like, okay, 2020 it's a write-off. 2021 is going to be, and it's just like this whole year has just been, just one thing after the other.
Like, honestly, in 2020, I reached a point and I was like, am I really even going to like get another job? I was like, what is going to happen? Things have changed so much because right before like all the lockdown happened, I was like that week, I was still working at Disney at the time. So I was at ESPN and I worked in Disney fine art photography. So I did like photos for all those fairy tale weddings and stuff that everyone.
Oh, yes.
So I
wanted to ask you about that.
Oh yeah, I worked in that department. I loved it. And like that week, I was supposed to be leaving for South by Southwest, but I was at Okeechobee shooting, and I got an email being like, hey, we're canceling your contract for South by Southwest. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh,
tears. Yeah. And I was like, crap. And I'm like, okay, well, thank God, like I had been at Disney for 5 years, and I was like, hey guys, I'm gonna need like some more shifts. Can you like throw me a couple my way? And they're like, oh yeah, no problem, we got you. And then like the second day back on Tuesday, they're like, yeah, you all have to go home and work. And I was like, okay. Like, this is
so fine. I've got a friend that works at Disney in Orlando, and I know him as Mackie, but I don't know his real name. He streams.
I don't know.
I'm just gonna look it up.
I'd have to.
Yeah, his Instagram is Mackie House Media, and he works in Orlando for Disneyland. Yeah.
How do you spell it? M-A-C-K?
It's MACKEE, Mouse Media.
Oh, I see.
That would be so.
Oh,
yeah. So
I have friends besides you that follow him.
Right. Oh my God, it's such a small world. But he works there.
Yeah, my good friend Chase like follows him.
Oh my God.
That I worked with at Disney at ESPN for years. I'll have to message Chase and be like, hey, who is this guy? Because Chase has done, he's like a video guy, and so I worked in a department with his girlfriend specifically at ESPN, but he was like video and we were photo. So like his girlfriend and I were like work besties, but he's like been all over. He was at ESPN, and then he went to broadcast like for like all the Disney live streams, and now he's at Nat Geographic, and I'm just like, you've gone like world travel in Orlando.
It's so crazy. I love that. That's so good.
I'm gonna follow him though. Yeah, like
I love that it's such a small world though. Like you know, I mean, it's the same with music photographers. We're all kind of connected now. Everybody knows each other and is friends. It's great.
100%. That's how it is. So I mean, people always ask me, they're like, do you know this person at Disney? And I'm like, listen, first of all, Disney has thousands of people, but if we're in a department, I might know someone who knows someone.
Yeah. It's all interconnected somehow. What up, Gonzi? Thank you so much for the subby. Super appreciate that. Let's check out some of your work, and let's talk about, let's go back to the start. So let's talk about how you first started getting into photography. And I really want to talk to you. I've heard you tell this story before because we actually met on Clubhouse. I don't know if you remember, but we met on Clubhouse a little while ago, and you told this story on Clubhouse. So I want to hear about why you used the name The Camera Lady, because when you said it, I was like, oh my God, that is actually genius. But while you're talking, we're just going to show some of your website work. But yeah, let's go back to the start.
I mean, like, okay, so I never could really pinpoint a start because I wrote a blog post about this, and I was like, how did I even get like started in this? Because I can remember being in high school was when I got my first DSLR, which I still have. I have a Nikon D7000. It is beat to shit, but I won't get rid of it. My grandparents and my mom got it for me, but my best friend brought up a good point, like when I was writing that, and she was like, don't you remember when we were little, like you used to have that stupid little, the Polaroid where you pull it out and then you had to like shake it, the long strip? She's like, you got that? Like you were obsessed with taking photos. And I was like, oh my God, you were right. She's like, you've never realized you've been obsessed with doing this since you were a kid. So like I had that, and then as I was going back, I started thinking about it. I was like, oh, well, after that I had like the little silver point and shoot like Canon, and then I had the pink little thin one, and like I guess just it was always there, but it never really struck me as anything that I wanted to do career-wise, because I was like, like you can do like, to be a musician you have to be in music, or an actress you have to be like theater, actress, like that sort of thing. And I think like I was in high school and I got this camera, and like I taught myself everything. So I'm self-taught in Photoshop, and then I was kind of self-taught in digital. And then when I went to college, I ended up taking my first film class, and I became a teaching assistant for film photography and darkroom. And I think just then, like I said, oh, I don't want to do digital. I don't want to do digital. Film is so cool. Like I wanted to be like that little sister kid. I was like, film, like all medium format, everything. And then like, it kind of, I was like, oh, well, digital's not bad. But in college, I never went to a digital class. My teacher just passed me. He's like, you don't have to come. You know what you're doing. And I was like, but I want to come to class. He's like, just come on project days and show me a project. And I was like, okay. Like, it was the weirdest thing for me, but I was like, okay. So I ended up moving down to Orlando because I wanted to work for Disney, and I was like, oh, I could get a photography job and like figure it out, because in Chicago I was going to be so small. So I did an internship at Disney in merchandise for a year, and then I separated from the company. I was bartending, and then I got hired at ESPN to be a photographer there. And that was in 2016. So I started there, and my name is so Polish and just doesn't roll off your tongue very easily. It's Taylor Regulski, and it's just, that doesn't sound pleasant. And you put photography in, nothing sounds good. And my cousins were like, oh, well, your initials spell your name without vowels. And I was like, yeah, that's cool, like TLR photos. And I tried for a while. And then I was like, oh, I can do life through pics, and I spelled it THRU and PIX. And I was like, trying to be so like hipster and cool with photos, and just like nothing was working. ever at all, and I didn't know what to do. And there's this big photographer that I actually ended up shooting a set with at Lala, but I did not get the courage to go say hi to him because I still just love his work and I think he's incredible human being. I'll say hi to like every other photographer by him, and I was like terrified. But his name's Chris Yoder, and I've been a big fan of him for years. And so many artists he's gone on tour with, like you can see me in the family photos, like front row, like holding up a little sign, like all those years, and I'm like, I have them as like my profile pictures. And people are like, how did you find yourself? I go, but I did that because I wanted to be in the front, not to see the DJs, to meet the photographers. That's what I did. And
oh my God, I love that.
That's what I was doing. I used to bring my little iPhone and I'd be like, I'm gonna get the best photos. Like I've edited some photos, I threw them in a portfolio, and they've gotten me jobs, surprisingly. But so I used to message him, and just like the off chance of being like, maybe he'll respond to me. Like people never did. And I had messaged him. I was like, hey, can I just come like be your assistant and carry your bags or something? He's like, hey, I already got someone. I was like, okay, whatever. And I just like had messaged him, like being like, I'm like really like stuck. I'm in a rut. I don't know what to do. I feel like, is this even something I should do? And he's like, yeah. And he told me, he's like, Yoder's not my real name because he goes by Yoder. And I was like, oh, like I didn't know that. And he's like, yeah. He's like, Yoder's just a nickname. He's like, why do you have to go by your name? And I was like,
You're like light bulb moment.
That makes a lot of sense, So I was like, sat there and I was like, what the fuck can I go by? I was like, I have no idea. And working at ESPN, I work with a lot of like youth teams. So it's baseball, basketball, cheerleading, track and field, whatever, you name it. And we get a lot of international teams. So it happened to be like I had this conversation with him, and then like a couple days later, I was at ESPN shooting. It was from Puerto Rico, this little 8-year-old baby, teeny tiny boys playing baseball, like hitting off the tee, not running, nothing.
Cute.
And, like they were the cutest, and the whole family's like, camera lady, and I was like, genius, like like I was like, oh
yes. And I think a lot of us. I mean, anyone that's probably shot weddings or events would definitely relate. I mean, when I saw your name, I was like, that's genius. That's what you get called. I always get called camera lady. All the time.
Person.
Cameraman.
I get called it all the time. And I was like, it's kind of genius if I can just own up to that. And I was like, and then when I tell people that, people are like, oh, that's like so smart. I was like, yeah, because that's literally what you just called me, isn't it? And they were like, yeah. I was like, I'm like, okay. Well, then like it spiraled into a whole like, well, what's the logo going to be and this sort of thing. So my original logo is on the back of my shirt. I don't know if it's still there. It might have fallen off. I think it fell off. One of my best friends made me this like little logo shirt. But the original
logo, cute.
Basically like this little girl, and she's holding a camera. That was the original logo.
I love that.
Big for watermarks and that sort of thing. So then my boyfriend was like, oh, well, do you know about the company like Girlski? And I was like, no. So basically their whole thing is it says skate, but the girl is in one of the letters. So he was like, why can't you do like a riff on that where it's camera and then in one of the letters it's a girl? And I was like,
clever.
And I was like, it's kind of like worked. And I don't watermark things too much. So it's like, it's not. Yeah. It won't be super obtrusive, but like it can be there if it needs to be there.
If you need it to be there, yeah. So that's so cute. I love that story.
Yeah, it came from little 8-year-old boys and their families from a baseball team. That's how that came.
Oh, so good, so good. Well, let's go back to kind of when you started. How did you do? I mean, you do, and we'll talk about you do like lots of different types of photography as well. But did you? When did you kind of start doing like music stuff and kind of working into that kind of area? Because obviously you've shot for Lola now. You just said you're on the going to Bonnaroo as well. So you've definitely worked your way up into getting on these big festivals and stuff. But that takes time. That's not just something that happens overnight. So there's a progression.
Yeah, I think like with music stuff, like it's on my Facebook page and I go back and I show people and I was like, I thought I was such a good photographer. Like I used to go to a concert every weekend, if not two every weekend, and I was like the little pop punk scene kid. And I'm bringing my little pink camera with the flash and like I said, I'd literally be up in the front with the flash and I thought these photos were fantastic. And like but that's what like at the time I was like, yeah, this is photography. And then I got a digital camera and I started like doing it for my high school. And then when I got into college, I was like, I'm gonna go that path because I was studying like sports and entertainment management. I was like, yeah, let's go that path. I mean, I have a master's in sport and entertainment management, believe it or
Yeah.
not. So I was like, yeah, like let's go this path. And I always wanted to do something with music. Like I don't think I ever understood there was like a business behind it. Cause I like as a kid, you're always like, oh, you just have to be a singer or like play an instrument or write music or something like that. So like I always wanted to do it. And I think once I got into college and started going to more festivals more and more, cause I went to a couple festivals when I was in high school, but the first year, like, I went to Lala for one day in 2011, but like in 2012, I started going to festivals like for full weekends. Like, let's
Mm-hmm.
go 3 days, let's go 2 days. And I think then, like, I started realizing, oh, well, there's a lot more to this. There's people that sell tickets, there's people that sell merchandise, there's people that do this. Like, there must be someone who does like what I want to do. So
Mm.
I would start seeing photographers and be like, "Hey, how do you do this?" Like I literally would go up to people and be like, "Take my photo and tell me how you do this." Like, did you like are you working with someone? Did you like apply somewhere? How does this work? So I think just like talking to people here and there and kind of like learning more and more about it and then just doing for the longest time I never really knew how else to get into music photography besides working with an artist or working for a festival. I never realized, oh, you can do a publication, you can do this,
Mm.
but I used to sneak my camera into festivals. I snuck it into Lala for a couple years, like my first couple of years. I used to wrap it in a poncho and stick it in the bottom of my bag. And they thought it was a poncho and I'd walk away, no problem. But I mean, the photos from back then, like, I wasn't as technically skilled with the camera. So, like, 2012, 13, like, I was sneaking cameras in, and then it was like, no, that, like, they started cracking down more and being like, oh, you
Mm.
had to, like, put it away or they had to hold it. Cause that happened to
Mm.
me at a Taylor Swift concert. They're like, you have to go put it back in your car. And I was like, no, like, it fits your requirements. And I was like, whatever. So I didn't do it. So then I started learning about like, oh, well, you can work for press and go like you can go to concerts for free if you shoot and like write articles. And I was like, okay, well, let's try and find a place that'll take me. So like I thought around like 2016, 2017, like I found like a really, really small publication in Chicago through Craigslist that like took me and was like, yeah, you can come shoot for us. And it's called On Stage Review. And I shot a lot of big things for them. Like, I shot Logic, I shot Taylor
Oh
Swift, I
wow.
shot Pink, I shot Cascade. Like, I was pulling like these big artists for this tiny publication. And I think like it kind of was almost a blessing in disguise to like get that. So this was like 2016, 17 when that started happening. And from there, I just started trying to find like bigger and bigger publications. But for me, I always looked at it as like, it's not just like, oh, you're going to go shoot this. Like for me, it was always like, hey, who can you network with? Who can you meet? Like, who can you just say, hey, like, this is my name. This is what I did. Can I send this to you after? Like that sort of thing. So that's how it kind of spiraled from there was that I just started like meeting people at different shows. I shot Corona Electric Beach one year and the guy who like brought me in was like, "Hey, do you want to come shoot more stuff with us? Like we'll pay you." So I started going and doing
Mm.
stuff for them. And I think from there that's how it kind of like spiraled. I was
Mm.
working for like publications and then I've been on a lot of like different music like groups on Facebook, and that's how I found Lala. Someone had posted in the Photo Ladies they were looking for a marketing photographer to do just marketing for the festival, which is a very unique niche of music photography. It's not something everyone
Yep.
does. Like, marketing
That's actually a
consists
really good tip. That's a marketing sponsorship, or even
of
just like going around doing food trucks and stuff like
lifestyle,
that.
like experience stuff. That's like
Mm.
it's a very unique niche, and I always tell people like for me it was more about like finding that uniqueness because I did marketing at ESPN. Like I was doing marketing for them at that point for like 2 or 3 years. I was
Mm.
doing Braves marketing, NFL, I was doing Run Disney, like I was doing all this stuff. And when they posted that, I was like, well, like, what's the difference? I might as well throw my name in the pot. And if they say no, they say
Mm.
no. Like, I was still going to Lala. And Katrina Barber had sent me an email, and she was like, our marketing lead and our photo lead really like your work. Like, are you still available to come do it? Like, and it's just going to be marketing. And she ended up, when I met her, she was like, hey, like, I got you a band. Like, you can go hop in the pit and do artist photos too. So technically, I was
So
running
good.
marketing, and I was doing food photos, I was doing sponsor, I was doing like lifestyle, I had to go and do like all the beer stuff. So like I was
Mm.
doing that, but by being able to do that and then also do artist work, it kind of like brought me in that way. And most of the other work I've gotten has all been off of recommendations from people, like other festivals
Mm.
I've gotten. It's like, oh, well, I talked to this festival owner, or I talked to this person and they recommended you. So that's really how I got started. But like for me, it was, hey, I'm going to go for fun, but it could also turn into something one day.
That's such a good tip, I think, though, because I think a lot of people would see that job and go, well, I don't want to do that. I want to be shooting the artists. And so they're going to turn down an opportunity that's actually getting you into the grounds, in with the team. I've done that exact same job before in a festival team. And then the same thing happened. They were like, oh, actually, when nighttime hits and you've done all your stuff, can you shoot the last 3 bands from the tower? And so I had to go up on the tower and shoot.
Yeah.
And they were like the best artists, and I ended up getting the shots that were used for promo and stuff because that's like the best spot to be.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like people don't realize like if you're there for an artist and stuff, your photo might get used. But if you're there for marketing, you are there to go get the photos that they want to use to sell everything to people. So like your stuff is put out there because that's what people see, and they're like, oh, I want to be that person like under the flags going into the festival, or I want to be that person front row like, watching my favorite artist, or I want to be in that crowd.
Yeah.
We're
or like camping, like if there's a camping section or whatever, I want to be that.
Right, like, and that's what sells it. And I mean, like I said, when I put my name on that Facebook post, I was like, oh, it's never gonna be me. I was like, because I saw a bunch of friends of mine who like were much more well known in the scene and like putting their names on there, and I was like, oh, they're gonna pick one of them. And like I was like, me? I was like, really? You want me to come do this for you? And like, and it was really surreal because at that point it was only 2019 and I got like my first press pass in 2017. It was 2 years after, and like it was very weird for me, but like that was always like my top 2 things I ever wanted to do as a music photographer were to photograph Taylor Swift and to photograph Lollapalooza. And they pretty much happened like in the same year or like 1 year apart. I can't remember. And like, or a couple weeks apart, if that. Like, memory just came up the other day, and I just was like, what do I do now? I was like, I did the 2 things I really wanted to. What do I do now? So like, I've always had that now is my thing, is like, what do I want to do next? Because I'm like, I checked things off so quickly, and I was like, oh my god, what is this?
That's such a good point, though. Like, I think like one of the things, I've got a podcast that's we talk about defining success and what it means to define success, but a lot of people, when they they would look at you and go, you've done Lollapalooza now, you've shot Taylor Swift, like you're successful. But when you get to that point, you're kind of like, well, I don't feel like I feel like there's more stuff, like there's so much more to achieve. So you're always kind of chasing the next thing. So you never really feel like you're truly successful because there's always more. There's always so much more.
Right, because like I feel like yeah, like I'm successful, but like I feel like I am not as well known as other photographers like out there. Like there are other photographers who are much more well known, but like for me, my personal success, those were like my two, and I was like, okay, what do I do now? Like, but it's always
Mm,
about like I think working in the industry and doing certain things, you learn new other things that people do, and you're like, oh, well, maybe that's something I want to do. Like when you meet other photographers who may like specialize in commercial music work, like doing
yeah.
magazine covers or album artwork, I was like, oh, well, that's something cool. Like, how do I do that? Or how do I do like music brand sponsorship or something like that? Like, there's
Mm,
so many different things to learn. So I think like we all have this one. And then once you get in there, you're like, oh, well, there's so many more things.
absolutely.
What do I want to do now? Like, cause then they all just start coming in, and you're like, okay, I need to figure out which avenue I want to go down.
That's absolutely true. You're always on to the next, that's for sure. I'd love to talk to you about your personal style because you've got this really vibrant, almost like hyper real in some photographs. Is that something you've developed over time, or is it something you've always done? Just being this like, I mean, it kind of suits your personality. It's like very bright and
Yeah.
bubbly, and it's just like it's your branding and your personality really match, which is cool.
Yeah, I think like it's taken some time to develop because I think if you go, I will say I've always leaned more into like a contrasty, dark-ish vibe. Even if you look at like some of my earlier like digital work for school and stuff. But like I said, I kind of started doing film. So like with film, it's very,
Mm.
and it was black and white film, no color. So I was
Right. Yep. Yep.
like
Yep.
black and white. So I think there's always been that, oh, I want to like make this have some sort of mood and feeling to it. So I think for me, that's kind of how it's developed is I always want there to be some sort of like moment or mood or feeling and like I don't want to like you can take a beautiful photo of someone. Like don't get me wrong, I do portrait photography all day long. I live for it, but I am not a stand there, pose, let me take your photo. I'm a, okay, we're going to stand there, look at each other, laugh. Why don't you tickle each other? Like you want to poke each other, you want to do something like I want to get more of like what's going on. So I
Yeah.
think that's all also like developed over time, but I think just the way I always describe it is that like I I always want to show something the way I think I see it. So like
Mm-hmm.
I've gone to festivals since I was like 16, 17. Like I've gone to country festivals, I've gone to rap, I've gone to alternative, I've gone to everything. And I think like for me, always going to a festival and concert, I'm like, it's so cool. It doesn't matter if it's like grunge or if it's pop. Like it's fun, it's out there, it's bright, it's that sort of thing. So like I always want to show things the way I see them as bright and stuff. And like when I shot Lala that one year, the marketing photographer, he's like, this is what I picture Lala to be. He's like, it's fun, it's bright. And I was like, it makes me feel so good because I'm always like, that's
Oh
what I
yes.
do. And I think just like looking at other photographers that like I look up to or like that I really like their work, I'll take little things from people. I'm like, oh, this person like does really good on like contrast or this person does really good on color. It's like how can I like blend the
Mm.
two? And I'm not a person because a lot of people ask me like, oh, well, do you buy presets? Like I don't buy presets. I make all of my own if unless like I'm on a team and they're like, hey, these are like the basics, start from here and then edit
Mm-hmm.
onward. But like I always make my own and people are like, oh, can you sell them? Like I feel if I sell my presets, people are gonna put it on and be like, what the fuck is this? Like how do you go from this to something else? Because I have like some presets, like I have one that I know of, it's like teal and yellow. And like you put it on and everything's just like yellow and blue and like it's so contrast and like people I think would just be confused to say the least.
Yeah, but you know that's a great base, and you know where you can take it to from there. Because I do, I mean, I do the same. I always start with a preset, no matter what, and it's you start to know the capability of what they can do. And yes, they might just start horrific or be just like way too bright, but you know you can pull it back, and it's gonna come like land somewhere really nice.
Exactly. So I think it's just like something that's developed over time for me, but it's just something for me that I'm like, I want to show it how I want people to see it and make people want to like feel like they were there. So I think that's kind of where my styles come from, but it's
Mm.
definitely like been a learning curve over time because I love bringing up the clarity. I just want to make it like so crunchy and just so sharp that it's like there in your face, like, and I think that was another thing like I learned over time from just watching YouTube videos and on forums of like, oh well, you can do this to make it look like HDR, and like that was another thing in college, like taking a digital class and being like, oh, HDR, like doing projects like that, taking like
Mm-hmm.
6 photos and then blending them all together. I think that was like one of the styles that stuck out to me over all the other things we did. And I think just
Mm-hmm.
pulling things over time is kind of where I've gotten, because I still change it from time to time. Sometimes I'm shooting a show and I'm just like, I really want this to be extra muted and just go with it in a green direction, even though like green is not the color I go to first.
What up, Bill? Nice to see you here. Let's talk about some of your other work because you do, and I'll show some of it now as well. But you do kind of lifestyle stuff. You do portraits. You do weddings. Do you have a preference? And oh, you do sport and recreation as well. But do you have a preference, and do you split your time? Like, I guess where do you get the most of your work and kind of income from?
It would definitely be music and then like portraits, lifestyle in that order. Just because I've kind of fallen off a sports path with not working at ESPN anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do, because I was technically full time with them, so I was there all the time. I was
Mm.
doing marketing. I just had this conversation with someone. I was like, I used to get up for a race and be clocking in at work sometimes at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning to go do all these marketing photos and then be done at like 6 o'clock and go to sleep and then start back at 2 o'clock the next day. Like, that's just how that was. Like,
So wild.
oh, my schedule's like, my boyfriend said, he's like, the whole time we've dated, for the most part, you've never had any sort of a normal schedule. Like, you've always either been
Yeah.
like starting super early, working super late. But I feel I just don't have the opportunity to do as much sports anymore, because sports outside of an organization like a high school, a college, NBA, and MLB, whatever it is, you kind of
Mm-hmm.
either have to be like with a team or you have to be with like
Yep.
a league or some sort of organization. And just, I never wanted, I am not the person, I don't want to be tied down to one thing. I don't want to be like, oh, you are just this type of photographer. You are just like baseball photographer for the Braves. Like, I was like, that's not me,
Yep.
because then I feel like I'm going to be too confined in a box. So being at
Yep.
ESPN, I got everything, and then I got to do weddings and private
Mm.
events, portraits on top of it. It was like I got my week. There was like one week I can remember before like COVID and everything. I was doing Braves player cards one day. Then I had to go do a bridal shoot at Magic Kingdom. Then we had this private party for this like $1 million family. Then I was doing like baseball again, and then I had like a race. Like, I had so many different things in 7 days. Like, you can't get that anywhere else. So sports is kind of like fallen off, but like if people want pictures for their high school or whatever, I do get booked from time to time,
Yep.
but it's not as much my main priority. And the same thing with weddings, just because I do so much music work. I'll do
Mm.
weddings here and there, but most of the time I'm already booked. Or for down here in Florida, I am too much money for some people. It's
Yep.
just too
Yep.
expensive for them. So it's very, at times certain types of photography are oversaturated in Orlando, and wedding photography is definitely one of them, with it being a
Yep.
destination. So
So there's lots of people doing it and
oh,
cheaper rates and stuff like that.
100%. I mean, I'm in some wedding groups and someone's like, I need a full day of photography for $900. And you'll see like 10 comments being like, I can work with your budget. And I'm like, $900 for a 10-hour
Nah,
wedding?
fam.
I
Nah,
was like,
it's gonna be a hard no from
I
me.
was like, I had a heart attack and almost passed out of my chair. So weddings have kind of been like, I have the right people come to me that want to use me, but a lot of it has been with people seeing, oh, you used to work for Disney Fine Art Photography. I get a lot of people ask me to go do Disney weddings sometimes.
Yep.
So like
That's cute.
I'm doing one of my friends' Disney weddings in February. So that'll be like the first wedding I get to do outside of Disney, on Disney property, which will be really cool because then I can just kind of do whatever I want. So
that's fun.
Yeah, but to answer your question, music is pretty much my number one thing right now.
Yeah, when I had to stop shooting weddings because it kept clashing with music and touring stuff, and I quite like shooting weddings, but I was, you book them so far in advance, and then you don't know if you're going to book a tour and stuff, and it just kept clashing, and touring was, for me, is always priority, so there's like this awkward conversation that you're like, oh, sorry, I'm going to be in Japan, can't shoot your wedding. But yeah.
The good point of like, you kind of reach a point where like sometimes you do so many, like you want to do so many different types of photography, but then you reach a point where you get to two and one's kind of starting to edge out the other, and you personally have to make a decision of, what do I want to do? Do I want to do music more? Am I going to go further with this? Or do I want to be a wedding photographer and be the occasional music photographer? It's one of those you have to decide. And like for me, like music has always been my number one priority, because at the top of this year, I didn't even think I was going to have another music job, and I was completely ready to start going a whole wedding route. Like I had things planned on my website and all this, and then there was a music opportunity, and I was like, okay, there's a chance. I was like, maybe I just need to maybe I just need to pause, give this a chance and see what happens. And it worked out. But I mean, like,
it worked.
Kind of have to just be ready for whatever might come your way, because you don't know.
You just never know. There's a great lesson in that, that's for sure. We were going to talk about a couple of your specific photos and techniques. Did you want to try and share your screen?
Let me open.
See if it works. I'll just
ignore
fingers crossed.
My
your desktop?
my messy desktop. This is like how my brain is. My brain is certain folders all over the place. Okay. So yes, so I'll share some photos. There was one that someone had commented recently. It was, I have to think what show it was. Hold on. It was last weekend. Oh my gosh, what show I have to look at my calendar because I shoot 3 shows a week. I'm like, what show did I have last weekend? I was like, I can't remember. And like sometimes I'm just like show up and I'm like, yep, what show do we have tonight? Who is this? Oh, it was Nora and Pure. Okay, so I shot Nora and Pure, and one of the openers had some lasers, and this was just the photo. I'll show the raw too. So this was the photo. Can you see it?
Yep, sure can.
So this was the photo, and a lot of people were like, how did you do it? And literally this is how it was shot, and I just enhanced the colors and the clarity. So I don't really do much. The preset I use is essentially just some extra clarity and some extra vibrancy and a little extra contrast. And I pull like the blacks back a little bit, but the science behind this has more been about figuring out the technicality in the camera about what to do. So I've tweaked around with it a lot, but if someone's trying to achieve something like this, an ISO, honestly, of around 200, maybe 400, and I have an f-stop about no more than f4, and then my shutter speed is around 100, and this is what you get. It's a lot about timing. Yeah,
lasers definitely is about timing, for sure. I definitely relate to that. That's a great shot, though. So good.
This was one that people have been asking about. Another one that people had asked me, just like since we're on the topic of lasers, was Chami. Oh no, do I not have it in here? Hold on, I have it elsewhere. I can pull it up though. Ignore my Dropbox because my Dropbox is also a hot mess. Okay.
We all can relate to that, I think.
Right, I think so. I was like, we all have. So there was this Chami photo. This one. This is my cover photo on Facebook. Again, another just timing thing. I am in the middle of the crowd, and that's one thing. People are always like, "How do you get those crowd photos?" I'm like, I go in there.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like it's not that easy to go in the crowd, by the way. I definitely got to a point where I was like, I'm too fucking old for this, but it does make great photographs.
It does. Like this is in the crowd. Granted, Chami did not have a ton of like, it wasn't as bad. Like we didn't sell out fully, so it wasn't as bad. Like we had Eric Prydz on Saturday, and let me tell you, trying to get in that crowd, it took me like 10 minutes to get from backstage, walk all the way around the bar, and then like start to be like, excuse me, can I just get in here?
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
And then you either have to deal with people that are like drunk and rude,
Yes.
or like off their face or whatever. So it's just like, sometimes I just like can't be bothered, but those shots,
Right.
Ash is just saying, are you hand holding this? Is this just like the arm like way above your head and you kind of just shoot from...
So I have so that was just like, this one actually specifically is not like above me. This is actually just kind of like at my eye level. I have 6, so that little pop out screen definitely helps. I'm 5.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I am very, very tall. So I can
I'm the same height as you.
yeah, so, you can kind of pop up, flip that screen and be like,
yeah.
Great, let me shoot away. So it's
Yeah.
a combination. So this is kind of just handheld, but I do have some that I can show where I was up on a monopod. I have some good ones. I think I have some from Medusa. Let's see. From behind. It's gonna take a minute.
That's alright.
Let's see what else I got. Hold on. Flosstradamus will have some. So Flosstradamus, there was, as you can see, a lot of openers. So that's another thing. Nope, this one maybe. I think a couple of these from this one. Okay, this is up on a monopod, like in a back. There's nothing special about this. But yeah, people always ask if I do it with a trigger, and I don't. I probably should do it with a trigger, but I set my timer up for 2 seconds, just like a 2-second delay.
Just pop the photo in front of my window.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Ooh, my bad. That's my fault.
That's alright. Just seeing myself twice.
So, yeah.
There we go.
I set this on the timer, and then I do 0.5 second intervals, and I do about 5 or 6 photos. So I'm getting 5 or 6, kind of letting the show happen, and then at the end deciding which one's the best. But I do a combination of both of on a monopod, handheld. It just really depends on where I'm at in a venue.
I actually do, and you'll relate to this because we are quite tall, but just the literally shooting above your head, because it gives you another meter as well, and it just hope and pray. Usually you nail those shots though. You get really good at them,
and especially with the little tilted screen on the Z6, lifesaver 100%.
Yeah, the mirrorless has them as well. I don't use them that much, but they do have them, so if you need to use it, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at those little glint shots that we were talking about.
Sure.
And you can let us know.
On my desktop. Let's go here. I'll do Friday. Elohim has a good one. I have a couple, so let's do 1, 2, 3. I've got a couple good ones of her. So these were just some. This is all with I have a Hoya filter for my 70 to 200. So, and it's just a 4 point. You can do 6 point, 8 point, but this is just 4.
And does it screw onto your lens?
Yeah, so I just screw it right on. And surprisingly, I have a crack in it, and it still works just fine. So if you ever crack a filter and you're concerned if it's not going to function appropriately, I will let you know it still functions just fine.
What did you say? What was the brand of that?
It's Hoya. It's Hoya. Yeah.
Cool. I'll pop that in the notes later on if anyone wants to know, because there's so many different types of filters you can get. So.
Yeah, I'm starting to look into Prism FX because I have I don't have any of those, but a couple photo friends at Lala were using them, and I was like, ooh, these look really cool. I have like a long prism to make like little rainbows and do reflections and stuff, but it's really difficult if it's a wider shot because it doesn't fill as much. So I'm still playing around with that. So this is all done with the filter. Let me pull these over. Sorry, might be a little. Make it bigger. So I don't necessarily like use it like all the time, but like, and I don't even use it. It also makes skin a little softer, you can see. So I don't like to overpower it because it can make skin a little too soft. This one I like, even though like there's the glow here, but these, like I said, these are all done with the same filter.
Yeah, I like it. I reckon it's cool.
So there's that, and then just like I'll show a different example when I shot Meg. I did it with Meg too, and it's just not that one. Like this, like sometimes it'll just catch in the perfect spot where it's not.
Oh, yes, love that.
So it's also kind of like about lighting and timing too, to see with that.
I've seen Greg shots, and he's got similar ones to that as well. It just looks so beautiful.
I don't know which one he uses. I should have asked him. I didn't ask him at Lala.
That's so beautiful. Look at that.
Yeah, same thing. Just again, I personally, this is the difference of when like sun is hitting. Like this is sun hitting her outfit versus a light. So like Ela was like light hitting her outfit. This is like the sun. You can see it like just popping a little bit even here.
Yeah.
So, it's vertical. Just in the right spot.
Oh yeah, look at that. So good. So cute.
That's with the filter. Now I have one without the filter that was kind of like a happy accident. It was during Yellow Claw. This one, you can kind of see here. This is shot on the fisheye.
Yeah, awesome.
This is just not in camera. So if you're trying to go for a look that's like this, you want to go up on your f-stop. So like sometimes I'm even at an f22 to make this happen. I don't know what I was at specifically with this. I didn't even notice this happened until after I was editing it, and I was like, oh, that works really well. So
yes,
that's
like so
another
good
example of you can totally do things in camera. It's just if you want to learn how to do it, sometimes it's go watch a video on YouTube or go do this, test it out. But sometimes you really have to tweak it to be exactly what you want. But another thing, like I tell people too, is like for something like this, something that really helps is I'll just kind of point with my arrow, like with my little pointer, is like if this was a corner, if this was up here, if you crop it out at the edge, this would be 10 times bigger. So I always tell people, like, after you watch something or you read about it, cool, you read about it, now go do it yourself to make it your own. So like to do something like this has taken me years of like testing things out. Like if I go out with my boyfriend, I'll bring my camera. I'm like, hey, like stand here, let me try this, let me do this. And he hates it, but like he's a good sport about it. So, and again, like also doing marketing stuff, like I do like a sun flare with banners for ESPN and they go nuts. They're like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. I was like, it took me 2 seconds after all these years of practicing.
Yeah, you've practiced enough now and you know how to achieve that really quickly.
Yeah. So that was like the two
so
that
cool.
I could think about. But
so great. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. We'll almost wrap this up shortly. Does anyone have any questions? Any specific questions? What have you got? Have you got Bonnaroo coming up? What else have you got coming up that's exciting?
I have Bonnaroo in Labor Day weekend. I have another show this Friday. So Vanguard has like 2 to 3 shows every week. So I'm usually at a show on Friday and Saturday, sometimes a Wednesday or Thursday. So we have shows pretty much every weekend. I just had Eric Prids and Dom Dalla over the weekend at Vanguard.
Cool.
But Bonnaroo. I'll be shooting some artists at EDC Vegas and EDC Orlando. I potentially might be at ACL. I don't know yet. I haven't had an official offer, but I was generically asked. So I might also be at ACL. Besides that, I've just been getting like a lot of like one-off artist work here and there for shows. So I don't know. I'm all over the place. My schedule changes all the time. I work for a studio that does senior portraits here, so tomorrow I have to go to the studio and do senior portraits. So it changes constantly.
Amazing. That's so great. It's like a good place to be. I think I like it's like it's hard to explain what it feels like watching from Australia, because there's so many of my friends like yourself are out there shooting again, and I'm so genuinely happy to see you guys, like everybody out there killing it. At the same time, it does completely break my heart. So it's like, it's this like weird, I mean, like, go girl, absolutely kill it. Yes, everyone's at Lolla. Yes, everyone's doing these festivals. This is so great. And also dying a little bit inside. But it does give hope to where we could potentially be, maybe soon.
100% agree, because I saw you had commented on my Alice in Wonderland photo to Sophie. Like,
yes, to Sophia.
So like, because I shot Bob Moses and I met Yaz, and I was like, oh my god, this is so small. I was like, I know the people you're talking to. The Australian music industry is very small. We all know each other. So when I saw that photo, I obviously had to tag Sophie, so she saw it. Yeah. But like when Yaz and like her were doing stuff, like I was emailing and messaging Yaz, and she's like, I feel so bad posting stuff because I know all you like and all my friends in America like can't do anything. But I was like, no, I was like, this is so great to see, because like you said, I was like, this gives us hope. Like,
yes,
it doesn't matter.
What it could,
I'm not jealous. I am so happy. You go, you do this. Like, please show us that there is something like, to be excited about. Like, it feels so 100%.
Good. It's definitely not, the feeling's definitely not a jealousy. It's definitely a genuine, like, especially after Rolling Loud and Lower, like just seeing everybody just killing it again. Like nobody had dropped off. It was just like everyone just came back in, like, and that's also great to see as well, because you start thinking, if you haven't shot a gig in 6 months to a year or whatever, you start thinking like, oh my god, can I even do this? And then you see everybody, and it's just like, it's like riding a bike. Everyone just like smashed it. Yeah, like Minda said, came back even better. It was just like, oh, so good.
Yeah, it's just like you're nervous at first, but then you're like, okay, like you just gotta like get it out of your system, and like we all have bad days when we shoot, or we all have like ones where you're like you weren't feeling it. Like the one I'm gonna say, everyone loves this photo, and I was like, I hated all of them. When I shot Millennium at Lolla, that was like the trending photo for like a week from Lolla, that Millennium photo, and I was like, ew, I hated it so much, and it's my photo. I literally went to
sorry. It's okay. Train, so obnoxious. I'm sorry.
I used to live by a train in Chicago. I get it, but I only
so loud
because Greg was supposed to shoot it, and Greg's like, I'm kind of behind on photos. Like, could you just go snag some photos? Because he's like, Shay's there by himself. I was like, yeah, sure, like whatever. So like I went over there because I was like, I'm gonna walk. I'll do some experience photos. It's fine. And I took them, and I was sitting there editing them, and I was like, crap, I have to drop these in 30 minutes. And I was like, I hate every single one of them. I was like, this is too blown out. This is blurry. This is off center. I was like, I hate all of them. And I was like, whatever. I edited like 10, 15, and I dropped them. And I was like, fuck it. I'm leaving for the night. Bye, guys. And then everyone's like, is this your photo? It's trending on Twitter. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, ew.
I hate when that happens. I hate when that happens. Or like, oh my God, when an artist uses a photo that you really don't like. It always happens with like press shots and stuff as well. You sneak one photo into proofs and stuff, and you're like, oh, I don't really love it, but I'll give it to them. And then they use that one, and it's like the album cover, and you're like, oh my God, I don't even like this photo. Don't use that one.
Literally how I feel every weekend. Like, because after I shoot at the show, it goes to Insomniac, and I'm like, well, it's out in the Insomniac marketing world. Let them pick whatever they want. Yeah. They pick these photos, and I'm just like, why?
Why do they pick the worst ones?
I know. I'm always just like, but everyone's always like, oh my God, they're so great. It's fine. Like, again, my Eric Prydz photos, like, I would show them if I could, but we haven't had them approved yet. And it's just like,
Yeah.
every single one, I was like, I hate this one. I hate this one. And like, my friend's like, these are incredible. I was like, no, these are disgusting. I don't even know what you're talking about. I was like, it's fogged up. This looks gross. This is bad. And I'm like, he's like, these are incredible. I'm like, no,
It's
but
so
like,
funny how we see things differently, hey?
oh yeah. Like the same thing with my marshmallow photos from Lala. For some reason, all my EDM artist photos, which is where I really sit in like the music realm, I was like, I don't like any of these. I like none. And everyone's like, these are so good. And I was like, no.
Oh, wild. Yeah. So good. Well, that's a great spot for us to finish. We've taken up an hour of your time. This has been so wonderful. I super appreciate it. It's been such a good chat.
Absolutely.
And to get to know you a bit better.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been really great. I'll get you the recording as well after it. Oh, my mouse has just decided not to work. I'll send it over shortly as well. For those in the chat, I'll hang. Oh my God, Siri, what are you doing? What the hell is going on? The mic. I didn't even know my Mac Mini had a Siri, so there you go. But thank you so much. I super appreciate you being here. That was super fun. We'll in the chat, guys. I'll just hang out for a few minutes if you guys want to hang. We'll say goodbye to Taylor. Thank you so much, my love. We'll talk to you very soon. Have fun at Bonnaroo. Can't wait to see your photos.
Yeah, I will. We'll be in touch. Hopefully one day when I get down to Australia, we can actually like meet in person. I'm finally getting some people in real life, like since music's coming back. I'm
yes. Like, no, 100%. And like, I'm sure I'll be in America. Like as soon as we're touring again, I should be over there. So, hopefully I'll get to see you over there as well.
Let me know. All right. Have a great night. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. See you later. My mouse